Hey there, this is John Anthony Francis Wilcox, and today is Saturday, the 18th of May, 2024. I hope you're all doing well. Today's a special day in that it is the 66th birthday of my friend Toya Ann Wilcox. I always call her my sister from another mister, over over the pond in England. And I realize we've known each other for, I think, 48, what am I saying, 38 years at this point. Let me see, is that right? Yeah, that's about right. So she's a real sweetheart of a person and a heck of a musician. And they just put out a wonderful new reissue, remaster, everything uh, set of her great album Warrior Rock Toya on Tour, which they said is winging its way to me, and I shall have it soon. I look forward to that. Um, Last night, I saw that they had on an episode of The Twilight Zone, the 16 millimeter Shrine with Ida Lupino, and it's really, I think it's one of their finest episodes, and just shows the potential of what they could do with those episodes. It's about a faded movie star who only feels alive and vibrant when she watches her old movies. And it has just a great ending. It's it's not frightening. It is odd and eerie and very effective. Rod Serling, when he put those things together and the crew he worked with, like Buck Houghton and others, really knew what they were doing, and he always made the most of his talent, that he had work with him, both in front and behind the lens. So it was good to see that that was on. During the week, I saw a movie that's been around for 51 years, but I never saw it until the other day. A movie called Rhinoceros, based on the Eugene Ionesco play. This version with Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel and Karen Black. And it's about a guy who's in an interesting place in his life, played by Gene Wilder, and all the people around him are gradually turning into rhinos. And you never really see you see the silhouette of one, I think that, but you hear them making rhinoceros noises. And I've read where people think it's an allegory for uh, Nazism. You know, could be. It could be just a man unwilling to change with the changes of society. I'm not sure. It wasn't it wasn't perfect by any means. I think the direction could have been much more coherent, but it is my understanding that it's not the fault of the director, that the movie company uh, totally sort of abandoned his cut and recut it themselves, and that's what we got in the theaters. I think that what they were looking for, this is just me thinking, as I tend to do, is they thought, well, we've got Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel, who we loved in The Producers, and they both have great comedic talent. So I think they were trying to edit it into a funnier movie than the script is. It has a humor to it, the play, but it's a much more dry humor and not as broad as they were trying to. I guess they were hoping for laughs. Let's just put it that way. And I suppose there are some in there, but they're more of a chuckle than a guffaw. But what can you say? Gene Wilder, Zero Mostel, Karen Black, any one of them can carry a film, obviously. They're all just wonderful. I guess one thing that's happened more recently in my life is I've had so much greater an appreciation of Karen Black as a talent. I mean, I always thought she was gorgeous in her quirky way, but she's in fact even more gorgeous nowadays. But really looking beneath her exterior, one hell of an actress, Karen Black. I don't think she gets the credit she's due because I guess, again, I think that she has been associated with roles that to a degree were based on her looks. Um, but it was interesting to watch. I'll have to watch it again. Um, Speaking of watching things, I just watched today a Monkees documentary from 2000, I believe it was, called Daydream Believers. And I saw one thing that it got wrong, but it got a lot right. The one thing I found out that it got wrong, I wouldn't have known this back then, is there's a scene in the documentary where they're discovering Jimi Hendrix, and Mike and Peter are really like excited by seeing him, and the thought of, Mike mentions they just got him to agree to open for them, which I think he ended up doing for like 7 or 8 dates until he quit because he would get out there and people would just shout for the Monkees. But many years later, in an interview as part of a straight up documentary, Peter mentioned that he never got Hendrix until later on. That at that time, it was Mickey who got what Jimi Hendrix was doing and was enthusiastic about having him on board. He was the one pushing for that. But other than that, the movie, it plays a little with the timeline, but a lot of times things like that do. But is actually by and large pretty accurate, and it cuts at an interesting point. It cuts sort of just before Peter left, because Peter left right after they did a TV special called 33 and a Third Revolutions per Monkey that they're barely in, to be honest with you. I've seen it. I know it was right after the movie Head, and by the way, they got a great actor, whoever it is that played Jack Nicholson. Really, he had it down pretty well. Um, I'm sorry, I don't know. I've just been in a Monkees mood. Musically, it's been a weird week for me because I've been listening to a lot of Monkees and a lot of early pre-pop fame Amy Grant. I don't know why, but I don't think I ever appreciated that stuff until later on. I think that what I like about it is I've always thought she has a great voice, and the earlier stuff is much more stripped down, very acoustic guitar driven and sometimes a bit overproduced, but she shines through. Her voice and her writing and stuff and her attitude comes through very well on her earliest stuff. I've been listening to stuff from around like the 80, 79, 80, 81 period. So, just before she hit it really big with her Age to Age album, for those of you in the know. Beyond that, I just put up a new track by track for a band called Headspin, and that's doing well. And I'm looking at what's next, work-wise, for the coming week. I have some ideas of what I want to do and need to do. I want to start seeding other interviews and things like that. So I'm always, pushing ahead, pushing ahead. Let's see, did I make anything of note? Gee, I made the childhood classic tuna casserole, I think on Monday, and it was delicious. Um, Beyond that, I don't think there was any big cooking because I've also been dealing with the fact that my Dupuytren's contracture that I have in my hands is getting noticeably worse in my right hand, and I'm starting to call it the claw. And I noticed that even today. I was carrying some stuff to go sit down, and stuff just fell out of my hand and onto the floor because I couldn't. It's like it's gotten more fumbly and stumbly and rumbling, stumbling, bumbling with that hand. Um, Otherwise, talked to my friend Bob. I talked to um, Ari. I think did I talk to Daniela this week? Maybe briefly, and I didn't really hear from it. And sadly, this week also, my friend Ed had to have his dog Pepito put down after 18 years. But his quality of life was suffering greatly, and I know that had to be a very difficult thing, but it was also the right thing because there comes a point if you're keeping it, the animal doesn't get to say to you, "I'm done." They just kind of suffer through things. But it was Ed made the right choice to not have Pepito suffer anymore. I think that was the loving choice. As difficult as it is, no one likes to know, well, this is when this dies, this day, much less choose it. That's tough. So I know that Ed had to feel horrible about that. Very sorry. Pepito was a fine little dog. I always enjoyed seeing him. So have I left anything out? I really can't think of anything that's striking my mind. That'll probably strike my mind as soon as the camera goes off. My nephew Michael, who lives with me, is healing up nicely. That's good to see. Um, Everything else seems to be on a reasonably even keel. I hope you're all doing well. Please do get in touch. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.